Chapter School Years, a ticking time bomb. School for most kids is about learning, making friends, and growing up. But for me, it was a battlefield, a place where my mind was at constant war with itself, and I had no idea why. The troublemaker, everyone noticed. Teachers, classmates, principals, no one had a doubt about one thing. I was trouble personified. Every PTM was a nightmare, a long list of complaints, punishments that never worked, and parents who didn't know what to do with me. I wasn't just mischievous, I was impulsive, aggressive, revenge-seeking. If I felt wronged, I had to settle the score, even if it meant getting into another fight. My brain had no brakes, no pause button. If a classmate insulted me, I couldn't just let it go. I had to respond immediately, often making things 10 times worse. And teachers? They had only one strategy: scoldings and punishments. Standing outside the class, writing lines, being sent to the principal's office. None of it mattered. If anything, it fueled my frustration. The more they tried to control me, the more I lashed out. I remember one incident vividly: being dragged to the principal's office after an outburst, heart racing, fists clenched. The principal's voice was sharp. "Why can't you just behave?" But I had no answer. I didn't know why. The odd combination: a topper and a troublemaker. But here's where things got weird. Despite my chaotic nature, I was a topper. I studied at the last minute, barely put in effort, and still aced exams. Even teachers were confused. How could the naughtiest kid in class be one of the smartest? Maybe my IQ was good, but OCD had its way of interfering. My handwriting was painfully slow. I would rewrite words multiple times because they didn't feel right. I was impatient, forgetful, always lost in thoughts. And those thoughts? They weren't normal distractions. They were intrusive, forcing their way in, making it impossible to focus. Exams weren't any easier. OCD turned them into a nightmare. If a letter wasn't written neatly, I had to erase it, rewrite it, sometimes over and over. The fear that I didn't do something right would mess my mind until I had no time left. I once spent an entire exam redoing a single answer, leaving half the paper blank. No one understood why. Friendships were a struggle. But academics weren't my biggest problem. Friendships were. I was rude, aggressive, a bully, and I pushed people away without meaning to. Every interaction felt like a ticking bomb, and eventually people stopped trying. It wasn't just school, it was everywhere. Home, tuitions, the playground. I faced scoldings and punishments everywhere I went. I remember a classmate once saying, "You always ruin everything." And that sentence stuck with me longer than I expected. I wasn't hiding my OCD from my friends. I didn't even know I had OCD. But they all knew something was wrong with me. They just didn't know what. To them, I was just the bad kid. Feeling ashamed, feeling trapped. There wasn't one specific moment where I felt ashamed or exposed. Every single day was like that. The stress, the fear of consequences, knowing I was different but not knowing why, it was always there. I realized my mistakes. I knew I was doing things I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop myself. No amount of punishments, warnings, or regrets could change it. That helplessness slowly turned into hopelessness. I spent nights lying awake, replaying every mistake, every outburst, every fight. Why am I like this? I would ask myself. But there was no answer. Teenage love and loss, a fairy tale turned toxic. At 13, I experienced my first love. She was beautiful, caring, and loved me wholeheartedly, almost obsessively. For a time, it felt like a fairy tale come true. But like many fairy tales, it soon turned toxic. My insecurities, my impulsive behavior, and my toxic tendencies created a cycle of breakups and reconciliations. We couldn't stay away from each other, but we couldn't stay together either. I remember one night after yet another fight, I impulsively broke up with her over text. The moment I hit send, regret flooded in. The next day, I begged her to take me back. She did, but only for the cycle to repeat again and again. For a year and a half, we repeated the same pattern: love, fights, breakups, getting back together over and over. And then she moved on. I stayed stuck. It's been 6 years since then, and I haven't been in a relationship, not even close. I've had conversations with her a few times over the years, but it's never been the same. Why? Because I finally realized something. My struggles, my mental health, my inability to control my emotions, they didn't just ruin that relationship, they kept me from finding peace within myself. I've spent these years reflecting, trying to understand where I went wrong, trying to heal. And only now do I see how deeply OCD had affected me. Not just in school, not just in friendships, but even in love. Looking back, what if? No tricks worked. No self control was enough. Impulsive OCD had its claws in me from the beginning. And now, looking back, I know exactly what I wish had happened. I wish someone had told me the truth. I wish someone had seen past the punishments, past the trouble, and realized I wasn't a bad kid. I was a kid with OCD. I wish someone had told me, get treated, everything will be fine. But no one did. And that's why I'm sharing this now. So no other kid has to go through this without knowing what's actually happening to them. The past can't change, but maybe by sharing this, I can help someone else break free. Next episode, we go even deeper because school was just the start. The worst was yet to come. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And remember, if you're struggling, you're not alone.